Do you believe in ghosts? You might after you hear this story. On the edge of a small, misty village, there was a house. It was not just any house. This house was old and broken, perched on a hill like a vulture waiting for something to die. The paint was peeling. The windows were like dark, empty eyes staring down at the village below. No one ever went near it, especially after the sun went down. The villagers whispered stories about the house. They said it was a place where shadows danced on their own and cold winds blew even on the warmest summer nights. They called it the House of Sorrows, a name that chilled you to the bone. Living inside this lonely, forgotten place were two twin sisters, Sumala and Kumala. They looked exactly alike. Same long black hair, same pale white skin, same dark, piercing eyes that seemed to look right through you. Their bond was incredibly strong, a silent connection that no one else could understand. They moved together, spoke together, and even seemed to think together. They were never apart. But being so close wasn't enough for them. They felt a hunger growing inside, a deep, gnawing desire for something more than just each other. They wanted power. They wanted to control things far beyond their lonely, crumbling home. The twins spent their days exploring the dark corners of their inherited house. It was filled with dusty relics and forgotten memories from generations past. They weren't interested in old furniture or faded portraits. They were searching for something specific, something they could feel calling to them from the deepest, most hidden parts of the house. One day, locked away in a heavy iron chest in the cellar, they found it, a book. It was bound in what looked like dark, wrinkled skin and had no title on its cover. The pages were yellow and brittle, filled with strange symbols and words written in a language that felt ancient and wrong. This book was more than just old paper and ink. It felt alive in their hands. A strange energy pulsed from it, a dark and tempting warmth that spread through their fingers and up their arms. It promised secrets that the world had tried to forget. It promised knowledge that could bend reality to their will. It promised them the very thing they craved most, power. The villagers had always been wary of the twins, their identical unblinking stares making everyone uneasy. But they had no idea what was about to be unleashed. The quiet, strange sisters were about to become something much, much worse. They were about to become a nightmare. The moment Sumala and Kumala opened the mysterious book, a change began. The air in the cellar grew cold and heavy, thick with a smell like damp earth and old secrets. The strange symbols on the pages seemed to squirm and glow with a faint, sickly light. The twins were not afraid. Instead, they were fascinated. They felt a pull, a dark invitation to learn the forbidden arts hidden within. They spent every waking hour hunched over the book, their voices whispering the strange, guttural words aloud. They were practicing black magic. The spells were simple at first, small tricks to make candles flicker or doors slam shut on their own. Their hunger for power grew with every successful incantation. They moved on to more complex rituals, ones that required more than just words. They drew strange patterns on the floor with salt and chalk. They collected herbs from the darkest parts of the forest, plants that were rumoured to be poisonous. The old house became their laboratory of nightmares. The shadows in the corners grew longer and darker, seeming to twist into menacing shapes that watched the girls with unseen eyes. The twins felt a presence with them, something ancient and powerful that had been awakened by the book. It whispered promises of greatness into their minds, urging them to go further. The more they practiced, the more the magic changed them. Their pale skin seemed to become even paler, almost translucent, while their dark eyes held a new, unsettling glint. They stopped eating, yet they never seemed to lose their strength. In fact, they seemed more energetic than ever, filled with a nervous, crackling energy that was not human. The villagers who caught a rare glimpse of them would hurry away, their hearts pounding with a new kind of fear. The twins were no longer just strange girls. They were becoming something else, something unnatural, something that did not belong in the world of the living. The darkness they were summoning began to seep out of the house. It was like a slow-moving poison, creeping down the hill and into the village. It started with little things. The birds stopped singing in the trees near their property. The air around the house grew perpetually cold, and a constant thin mist clung to the ground, refusing to burn away even in the brightest daylight. The twins didn't care about the consequences. They were drunk on their newfound abilities, pushing the boundaries of their dark craft further and further. They wanted more, and the ancient presence they communed with was more than willing to give it to them for a price. Soon, the darkness was no longer contained to the hill. It spread through the village like a sickness. The crops in the fields began to wither and die, turning black and rotten in the soil for no reason. Farmers would wake up to find their healthy plants wilted overnight, as if a great frost had struck in the middle of summer. The river that flowed through the village, once clear and full of life, turned murky and sluggish. The fish floated to the surface, their bellies white and their eyes glassy. A terrible silence fell over the land, as if nature itself was holding its breath in terror. The villagers knew, deep down, where this blight was coming from. Their fear turned towards the house on the hill and the two sisters who lived within it. Whispers turned into frightened accusations. People said Sumala and Kumala were to blame. They said the twins were witches, practicing dark arts that poisoned the very earth. Livestock began to fall ill with a mysterious sickness that no veterinarian could explain. Healthy cows would collapse in the fields, and chickens would be found lifeless in their coops. The dogs in the village, which once barked at every passing stranger, would now only whine and hide whenever the wind blew from the direction of the haunted house. Fear was a constant companion in every home. No one dared to walk the paths alone after dusk. The nights became filled with strange sounds. The sound of faint, echoing laughter carried on the wind, and the whisper of unseen things moving through the trees. People locked their doors and shuttered their windows, praying the evil from the hill would not find its way to their doorstep. Rumours began to circulate that the twins had made a pact. They said Sumala and Kumala had summoned a demon from the depths of their evil book and made a terrible deal. They had traded their souls for a horrifying gift, eternal youth and unending power. The villagers looked at the twins and saw proof. While everything around them withered and aged with worry, Sumala and Kumala remained unchanged. They looked as young and perfect as they had years before. Their skin was flawless, their eyes bright with an unholy light. They never seemed to age a single day. This unnatural youth was the most terrifying thing of all. It was proof that they were no longer human. They were monsters who fed on the life of the village to sustain their own twisted existence. The fear in the village was turning into something else, something far more dangerous: hatred. The breaking point came during the annual harvest festival. It was supposed to be a night of celebration, a desperate attempt by the villagers to cling to some sense of normalcy. But, a shadow hung over the festivities. That night, a young boy named Addy, known for his curious and brave spirit, vanished without a trace. He was last seen near the edge of the woods, the path that led up toward the dreaded house on the hill. Panic erupted. The boy's mother's screams cut through the cheerful music, and the festival ground to a horrifying halt. The villagers knew where to look. Their fear finally boiled over into rage. With torches and pitchforks in hand, a mob of angry villagers marched up the hill. They were no longer afraid. They were driven by grief and a thirst for justice. They shouted the twins' names, their voices filled with accusation and hate. As they reached the house, they saw a strange green light flickering from the upstairs window. The front door was unlocked. When they burst inside, they found the house empty. There was no sign of the twins and no sign of the missing boy. The only thing they found was the dark, leather-bound book lying open on the floor as if waiting for them. In their fury, the villagers set the house ablaze. They threw their torches onto the dry, rotting wood, and the structure went up in flames with a terrifying roar. The fire burned hot and bright, a giant orange beacon of vengeance against the night sky. The villagers watched as the House of Sorrows was consumed, its dark secrets turning to ash and smoke. They believed they were cleansing their village of the evil that had plagued them for so long. They stood there until the roof collapsed and the walls crumbled, leaving nothing but a smouldering blackened ruin on the hilltop. The fire burned all night long. When morning came, the villagers sifted through the charred remains, looking for the bodies of the demon twins. But they found nothing. Not a single bone, not a shred of cloth, not a trace of Sumala or Kumala. It was as if they had vanished into thin air, swallowed by the very flames that were meant to destroy them. The missing boy, Adi, was never found either. Though the house was gone, the evil was not. The villagers knew the twins were not truly gone. They believed their spirits were now bound to the ruins, cursed to haunt the hill forever, still hungry for the life they had been denied. Many years passed. The village slowly recovered, but the memory of the twins never faded. The story of Sumala and Kumala became a local legend, a ghost story told to frighten children and warn travellers. The ruins on the hill remained untouched, a scar on the landscape. People said that on moonless nights, you could still see two identical figures moving among the blackened stones. They said you could hear the faint sound of two girls laughing, a sound that would freeze your blood. The road that passed by the forest at the base of the hill was avoided by all, for it was said the ghostly sisters sometimes wandered down, looking for company. One day a traveller named Bhima came to the village. He was a young man, confident and skeptical, who did not believe in local superstitions. He listened to the villagers' warnings about the haunted road and the demon twins, but he just laughed. "Ghosts are just stories to scare people," he boasted in the local tavern. "I am not afraid of shadows." Despite their pleas, Bhima decided to take the forbidden road as a shortcut, eager to prove them wrong. He set off as dusk began to settle, the sky turning a deep shade of purple and orange. The woods grew dark and silent around him as he walked. As he neared the base of the hill where the ruins stood, the air grew unnaturally cold. A thick mist rolled in, clinging to the ground and making it hard to see the path ahead. Bhima felt a shiver run down his spine, but he told himself it was just the evening chill. Then he heard it, a soft, sweet giggle. He stopped, peering into the gloom. Standing in the middle of the road were two young girls. They looked identical, with long black hair and pale dresses that seemed to float in the mist. "Are you lost?" one of them asked, her voice like a soft melody. "We are," said the other. "Will you play with us?" Bhima was mesmerized. He forgot all the warnings. He forgot his skepticism. The twins were beautiful, and their eyes held a strange, captivating power. He felt a pull towards them, an irresistible urge to join them. He took a step forward, and then another. The twins smiled, and their smiles were not sweet. They were wide and hungry. They each took one of his hands, their touch as cold as ice. The villagers say Bhima was never seen again. His name was just added to the tale, another victim of the twins. So if you ever find yourself on a lonely road near an old ruin and you hear the sound of laughter, do not stop. Keep walking. Because Sumala and Kumala are always looking for new friends to play with, forever.